You remember the feeling, don't you? It likely started in a classroom, perhaps in the second or third grade. The teacher handed back a test, the paper cool against your fingertips, and there it was a perfect score. Maybe there was a gold star, or a note in red ink that said, "Excellent." But the real reward wasn't the grade. It was the whisper that followed you home. The words repeated by parents and relatives at dinner parties, spoken with a mixture of pride and awe. "You are so smart. You are special. You have so much potential." It felt like a superpower. While others struggled to read, you devoured books. While others counted on their fingers, you saw the patterns in your head. It was effortless, and because it was effortless, you learned the first, most dangerous lesson of your life. Success shouldn't hurt. If you are truly special, you shouldn't have to try. Fast forward 10, maybe 15 years. The classroom is gone. The gold stars have peeled away. You are sitting in a room, maybe an office cubicle, maybe a messy bedroom at 3 a.m. staring at a screen, paralyzed by a task that shouldn't be this hard. You look around and see people who, back then, you would have considered average. They are moving past you. They are finishing projects, building careers, starting families, taking risks. And you are stuck. You are terrified. You feel like a fraud waiting to be exposed. This is the silent tragedy of the gifted kid. It is the story of how a promise turns into a prison, and how unspent potential, if left too long in the dark, begins to rot. To understand why this happens, we have to look at the architecture of the gifted identity. When a child is constantly praised for their innate intelligence, for what they are, rather than what they do, they develop what psychologists call a fixed mindset. You begin to believe that your intelligence is a static object, like a height requirement for a roller coaster. You are either tall enough to ride, or you aren't. You are either smart enough to understand the math problem instantly, or you are stupid. There is no middle ground. For the first decade of your life, this system works perfectly because the hurdles are low enough for you to step over without stretching. You coast. You get the A without studying. You finish the essay in the hallway before class. You build an entire identity around the idea that you are the one who finds things easy. You are the smart one. But eventually, inevitably, you hit a wall. It might be advanced calculus. It might be a thesis paper. It might be the chaotic, unstructured demands of the modern workplace. Suddenly, the answer doesn't come instantly. Suddenly, you have to struggle. You have to ask for help. You have to fail, draft after draft. For a normal student, this struggle is just part of learning. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. But for the gifted kid, struggle is not a sign of growth. It is a sign of defect. If I have to try hard, it means I'm not smart anymore. If I fail, I lose my label. And if I lose the label of smart, I am nothing. So, what do? You stop. You freeze. This is the birth of the agonizing procrastination that plagues so many high-potential adults. It is not laziness. Laziness is a choice to do nothing because you don't care. This is not that. This is a terror so deep, it paralyzes your nervous system. You procrastinate because if you don't try, you can't technically fail. If you don't write the book, nobody can say it's bad. If you don't apply for the job, you can't be rejected. You can preserve the idea of your potential forever, as long as you never actually test it. You become a hoarder of potential. You collect ideas, you read endlessly. You plan elaborate futures, but you execute nothing. Because execution is messy. Execution is imperfect. And you have been trained to believe that anything less than perfection is a failure of character. This is where the rot sets in. There is a profound bitterness that grows in the heart of the burnt-out gifted kid. You begin to resent the world. You watch people with half your intellect achieve twice your success, simply because they were willing to be bad at something long enough to get good at it. They didn't have your ego to protect. They didn't have your pedestal to fall from. They just did the work. You might find yourself looking at them with a mix of envy and judgment. You tell yourself, I could do that better if I really wanted to. But you don't want to, or rather, you can't bring yourself to start. Because starting means entering the arena of the novice, the beginner, the fool. And the gifted child is terrified of looking like a fool. The ancient philosophers understood this trap well. Seneca warned us that, while we wait for life, life passes. He understood that the obsession with preparation, with being ready, with being perfect, is a form of death. The acorn has the potential to be an oak tree, but if it refuses to break its shell and bury itself in the dirt, if it refuses to face the darkness and the struggle of the soil, it remains just a nut. It will eventually dry out and crumble, its potential intact, but realized by no one. We must also consider the shadow side of this dynamic, the dark comfort of being misunderstood. As the years go by and the achievements don't materialize, the gifted adult often retreats into a narrative of victimhood. The world doesn't appreciate true intellect, you might say. The system is broken. And while the system may indeed be broken, this narrative is often a defense mechanism. It is easier to be a misunderstood genius than an understood failure. It is safer to be the tragic hero of your own story than to be just another person trying to figure out how to pay the bills and find meaning in the mundane. But there is a way out. The exit door is not hidden, but it is painful to walk through. It requires a fundamental death of the ego. It requires you to take the smart kid label, that golden badge you've worn since the 3rd grade, and throw it in the trash. You have to stop viewing your intelligence as a status and start viewing it as a tool. A hammer does not care if it is shiny. It cares if it drives the nail. Your mind is a tool for solving problems, not a museum piece to be admired. This means you must give yourself permission to be stupid. You must give yourself permission to be slow. You must learn to fall in love with the process of being bad at something. There is a Japanese concept called shoshin, or beginner's mind. It creates an openness, an eagerness, and a lack of preconceptions. When studying a subject, even when studying at an advanced level, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's there are few. The gifted kid thinks they are the expert before they have even started. To heal, you must become the beginner again. You have to realize that potential is not a compliment. It is a debt. It is a weight. When someone tells you you have so much potential, they are telling you that you haven't done anything yet. Realizing this is sobering. It hurts. It punctures the balloon of your ego. But it is also the only thing that will set you free. Because once you accept that you are not special, that you are just a person who has to work, fail, learn, and try again, like everyone else, the paralysis lifts. The stakes come down. You don't have to write the greatest novel of the century. You just have to write a page. You don't have to revolutionize your industry. You just have to finish the project. The rot stops spreading the moment you start moving. Movement generates heat. It burns off the fog of procrastination. It is messy, and it is imperfect, and it is often frustrating, but it is real. And a real, imperfect life is infinitely better than a perfect, imaginary one. So, look at the dust gathering on your dreams. Look at the projects you abandoned because they got difficult. Look at the resentment you feel toward those who are out there doing it. And then, forgive yourself. Forgive the child who was told they were perfect. Forgive the young adult who was too scared to find out they weren't. Step off the pedestal. It's lonely up there, and you can't move your feet. Come down to the ground with the rest of us. It's dirty here, and the work is hard, and there are no gold stars. But this is where life happens. This is where the rot turns into soil, and where, finally, you can begin to grow.